Hi everyone, today we're going to be cooking Bœuf Bourguignon from Burgundy in France. And for that, we have a ton of stuff that you're going to need, starting with beef stock, 6 slices of bacon, 3 pounds of stewing beef cut into 2-inch chunks, and that's specific because of the cooking time in the oven, 18 to 24 pearl onions, which I have frozen that are thawing currently, 2 cloves of garlic and a bay leaf, 3.5 tablespoons of butter, an herb bouquet, which I have 4 sprigs of parsley, 2 sprigs of thyme, and 1 bay leaf. You're gonna need olive oil, tomato paste, salt, pepper, and a red wine, specifically like a hearty red wine. It doesn't have to be from Burgundy at all, and a little bit of flour.
So here's everything you're gonna need. I know this recipe seems really overwhelming, but just take it slow, follow each step. Here I am prepping everything, doing my veggies first, cutting the carrots, cutting the onions into slices. But yeah, I was overwhelmed myself because I am a pretty inexperienced cook. I don't cook that much. My dad does most of the cooking at home. So he was kind of coaching me and helping me through this. I recommend if your parents cook or if you have friends that cook, you definitely have them supervise you. Here I am. I peeled the garlic cloves and I just smashed them. I'm cutting the 6 slices of bacon in 1/4-inch pieces, and I kind of struggled with this. As a former vegan, touching meat was like not my jam. Also, cutting it was not my jam. As you can see, I'm like shredding it, but I learned by the end of it, if you use mostly the back end of your knife, it goes a lot smoother. And yeah, make sure you wash your hands before and after handling this meat. I washed my hands like 50 million times. Yeah, and I'm putting them in a simmering, boiling pot of water and stirring it around. You want to do this for 10 minutes. So while the bacon was boiling, I dried the stewing beef off with a paper towel, which I was squealing the whole time. Again, as a former vegan, this was not fun for me. Even though I eat meat, handling raw meat just grossed me out. But the end result's good, so do it. Here I am putting olive oil in the Dutch oven, heating it up, taking my bacon pieces out, and you'll see I also dry them off with a paper towel, which I then put in the Dutch oven with the olive oil to get them nice and golden. So once you're done with the bacon, you're going to set it aside, put it in a bowl, and you'll see it was super fun to try and scoop every little piece out. Adding the bacon is one of Julia Child's additions to the recipe. I sort of used a mixture of hers and another on the recipes I provided you guys. So here I am adding the stewing beef to the olive oil. I don't do all of it at once. I only do about 6 pieces in the first round. And this is so that they can get a nice golden sear on the outside. So you'll see this is kind of an extensive process. It took me half hour, 45 minutes, but it is so worth it. You just turn it on each corner, on each side, making sure it gets a super nice crust. And you'll see at the end, it looks super good. But yeah, it is kind of a time-consuming process. I put on an oven mitt because the oil was splashing me and I couldn't handle that. You'll see as you sear all the sides, you sort of get this brown buildup. You want to keep that. That's where all the flavor comes from. So I'm adding my veggies to that and really just getting them to a golden brown sort of stage before doing anything else. So when everything is looking nice and browned, I add the meat back one by one. And then you'll see there is kind of leftover juice from everything in the metal bowl. I did not add that because the recipe didn't say. I kept asking my dad, like, are you sure I shouldn't just pour it all in? And he's like, nope, follow the recipe. So even if something is a gut instinct, to always double check it. Just do what the recipe says. If it specifies anything like that, it will tell you. So after I stir the meat around, make sure everything is evenly heated, I go ahead and add my seasonings. And there you go, give it a nice stir again. At this point, I add the flour, and again, the flour is what is added to make the stew thicker, so it's not just liquidy. And I would say it makes a big difference. Yeah. So next comes the fun part. I had to move the racks around in my oven to make sure that the Dutch oven would sit in the middle. I put it in for about 4 minutes. You take it out, give everything a good mix. I know 4 minutes doesn't seem like a long time. It's kind of like, well, why would you do that? It sort of just gives it a flash cure, heats everything up really quickly. Then here I am adding my wine. I did this carefully because, and I sort of didn't do everything at once. I added my wine first and then I added the stock because the recipe specifies that the meat should just barely cover. So depending on what size your meat chunks are, how much vegetables you put in, this will determine how much of the stock and wine you also put in. So I sort of just added one, and then I added the other, and then I added one, then I added the other, just to make sure that I wasn't overfilling the Dutch oven. So then you'll see I add my tomato paste, which was super fun. Just kidding, it's really thick and hard to scoop out, so make sure you get everything in there that the measurements require. Adding garlic and thyme, giving it a good mix, even though it'll sort of cook in the oven. And yeah. So I forgot to mention, once I took it out of the oven after 4 minutes, I put it back on the heat, I got it to a simmer, and I then covered it. So this is going right back into the oven for 3 to 4 hours. And I know that seems like a long time, but if you've ever made a roast or you've had roast that your family's cooked, you know at the end it is worth all the wait. So here I am, I have the onions and butter and herb bouquet, those are cooking. I take the stew out of the oven and you'll see I give it a good stir. I then drain it over another pot, so you'll see that here in a second. It's going to collect a sauce in the pot, which you are going to put on a simmer and skim the fat off of the top of. I found I didn't have a ton of fat to scoop off the top, but the recipe said to do it, so I did it. And then I pour that over the beef in the Dutch oven. And you'll see I make sure I get every last scoop of this because the sauce is kind of the best part. And then you'll see in a second here, I add my onions in, I give it a good mix. I kept it warm while we were cooking other sides. We served it with broccoli and mashed potatoes, which was super good and filling. It's a perfect winter dinner, and yeah, eat it with your family, have fun.